an autograph photo with them, and it's going to be such a great time.
Toronto Comic Con runs until Sunday. Oasis confirms a concert movie will be shot during their reunion tour, documenting their first shows in 15 years. No release date has been set. The tour runs from July the 4th to November the 23rd, with a stop this summer here in Toronto. The movie will be produced by Peaky Blinders creator Stephen Knight. Canadian music icon Anne Murray is set to receive a major honor at this year's Juno Awards.
Spread your tiny wings and fly away.
I can't tell you how many times I listened to her growing up. The Canadian Academy of Recording Arts and Scientists announced Murray will receive the Lifetime Achievement Award presented by the National Arts Centre. Organizers say Murray is the first artist to receive the award since 1989, when it was given to Pierre Junot. This year's Juno Awards will be handed out on Sunday, March the 30th in Vancouver. 10:27, 5 degrees. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24. The winds of change are blowing in Ottawa, with Mark Carney being sworn in as Canada's 24th Prime Minister. We'll have complete coverage throughout the day. Stay with us.
Favorite, you know?
There's nothing like waking up in Hong Kong, jaw-dropping views in an elegant luxury stay, like the exceptional Park Lane Hong Kong. A contemporary oasis and home away from home in the heart of vibrant Causeway Bay. The Park Lane Hong Kong is just a stone's throw from some of the city's most compelling attractions. Causeway Bay is a buzzing hub, close to everything and super walkable. A shopper's paradise where you'll also discover the soothing calm of Victoria Park. As night falls, Hong Kong's liveliest street market comes to life. Check out Temple Street Night Market for souvenir shopping and specialty street food. What in Hong Kong? After exploring the city, head up to Sky Roof Bar and Brasserie for a relaxed or rendezvous with stunning views of Hong Kong's skyline. No matter what experience you're looking for, you'll find it here in Hong Kong.
It's been 25 years since the last sighting of the Cashman from Oliver's. We've been hearing rumors that a new generation of heroes are here, the Cashman.
There they are!
I love you, Cashman. You turned my Rolex into cash.
Wow, you really are superheroes. Why do you like helping people so much?
Because that's what heroes do.
Here's a live shot of Rideau Hall. The winds of change are blowing in Ottawa. We see cabinet ministers arriving, and Mark Carney is going to be sworn in as Canada's 24th Prime Minister. We'll have complete coverage throughout the day. Mark Carney's cabinet will also be sworn in today. Coming up, we'll tell you who's in, who's out of Carney's inner circle. And if you were up early this morning or stayed up really late, you might have caught a special treat in the sky. Coming up, we'll have more on the total lunar eclipse. 10:31, 5 degrees. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24. Good morning. I'm Arda Zakarian. We are following breaking news. Justin Trudeau has officially resigned as Canada's Prime Minister. Trudeau officially stepped down as the country's leader during a visit to Governor General Mary Simon. Trudeau visited Rideau Hall this morning ahead of Mark Carney's swearing-in ceremony set for 11 a.m. This ends his nearly decade-long tenure as Prime Minister after taking office in November of 2015. And Mark Carney will be sworn in as Canada's 24th Prime Minister today. Carney will take the oath of office along with the members of his cabinet during a ceremony at Rideau Hall this morning. He is taking over for Justin Trudeau after winning the Liberal leadership race last weekend. Carney said during the contest that he will likely call an election before March the 24th, which is when Parliament is set to resume. We have some details to share about what Carney's cabinet is expected to look like. CTV News has confirmed that Public Services and Procurement Minister Jean-Yves Duclos and Immigration Minister Mark Miller are being dropped from cabinet. International Trade Minister Mary Ng said earlier this week that Monday's cabinet meeting was her last and she won't seek re-election. We're learning another current cabinet minister is not running in the next election. In a social media post, Health Minister Mark Holland says that it's time to go home and what had been an adventure. The Ajax MP was first elected in 2004 and served until 2011 and was re-elected in 2015. Holland had been working to convince provinces to sign onto the government's pharmacare program. And sources also tell CTV that former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland has been offered the role of Transport Minister in Carney's cabinet. Karina Gould, who, like Freeland, also ran for the Liberal leadership, was not offered a position in cabinet. And Toronto MP will become Justice Minister. Gary Anandasingari, who represents the riding of Scarborough-Rouge Park, will be replacing Arif Virani. The Parkdale High Park MP announced last month that he won't be seeking re-election. And for more on this, we're joined by veteran pollster John Wright. John, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. So what are the polls saying today?
Well, the polls have been fluctuating a bit in the last week or so, but effectively, you need to have 37% in order to have a majority government. As of today, the parties are pretty well even in where they are. They're roughly 38, 36 in that range. The NDP are the ones who are losing the most. They're sitting down around 10% in the polls. So as we launch into a window of about 100 days or so, which will include a campaign, a vote, and then whoever forms the next government, we go into this with Mark Carney, a pretty unknown character, but has given a lift to the Liberals in the absence of Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, we have seen the narrowing between the Conservatives and the Liberals, but is this something that can be sustained, or is it just because we're seeing the change between Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney?
Well, this is going to be the most precarious and exciting political career campaign that I've ever witnessed, and I think for most, because really the agenda, what politicians try to do is shape what's called the ballot question. So when you go into the ballot box and mark your X, it's the reason why you're marking it. And I think what we're going to see over the next number of weeks is that somebody living in the White House is going to determine very much what that ballot question is. So even right up until the last day before we vote, we may have something come out of the United States which forces us to deal with how we see our own country and our own prime minister. So there's two things that you really have to watch about. First of all, not many people know who Mark Carney is, and the Conservatives have a war chest. They have lots of social media. They have lots of advertising. They've been preparing for this moment, and over the next 10 days or so, they're going to try and paint his wagon. They're going to try and make him out to be something that will be to their advantage. On the other hand, the Liberals, getting out of the gate, are going to try and set him apart from the Trudeau agenda. That's why we've seen him drop a lot of the cabinet ministers, change some of the policies. He may even get on a plane and go to Europe to visit with some other people over there who you know, in Britain and in France. But they're going to try and make him into a new Liberal leader so that, you know, he's able to be presented as a different alternative to deal with Donald Trump. So all of that within the next 10 to 15 days will start to define who Mark Carney is, and it's going to come from different sources.
And we could just see right now, we see Mark Carney arriving at Rideau Hall, and we know that Justin Trudeau, as we just broke the news, has resigned as Prime Minister of Canada. He's speaking to the media. You can see Mark Carney speaking right now. These are the moments just before he's set to become the 24th Prime Minister of Canada as he goes in for the swearing-in ceremony. We know that let's listen into what he's saying. I don't know if we were able to hear anything. However, we know that as he's entering those doors, this is the last time he is a regular citizen, I should say. He will be coming out of those doors as a prime minister of our country. And I know, John, you were saying that they were trying to differentiate a lot between Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and who the new prime minister is going to be. Do you think that will have an impact on how the polls will do?
Absolutely. There's a great phrase that says you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Mark Carney had an opportunity to become known to some Canadians the other night when he won the leadership. But the defining aspects of Mark Carney will be over the next 10 days. And that's where opposition parties and everybody else in the media get to shape and see how he is. What will be critical with this is to watch what comes out of the cabinet. I mean, already we're hearing that it's going to be a reduced measure. The next thing is, well, who's in the cabinet? Where do they come from? What is the makeup of that cabinet? All of these things today send signals. All of them are for you and I as political and media commentators to watch what happens. But within the next 24 hours, people who just go to work, who are looking after the kids today, are going to learn about Mark Carney, and that will take shape over the next weekend. And we'll see where we are in the polls next week after they've been exposed to Mark Carney, the new prime minister.
Let's talk a little bit more about his cabinet today. We know we can see a leaner, a smaller cabinet. Obviously, that's a strategy that he's using. How do you think that will fare for the public, including having that leaner focus, I should say, on what's going on between the relationship between Canada and the United States?
Yeah, great question, because what we're hearing about, and we don't know until they're sworn in for sure, but what we're hearing about is a core of ministers who will remain on the job looking after that relationship with the United States. We also have to take into account that this is a cabinet that's only temporary. I mean, we're going to go into an election campaign, and at the end of that, whoever wins will create the bigger one. Right now, I think, again, part of this is the regeneration of the Liberal Party itself. It's been the Liberal Party of Justin Trudeau for 9 years. It's carried a lot of baggage. Justin Trudeau himself drove the Liberal vote down to about 19%. You can't win with that. So what the real focus will be here today is to try and differentiate the Liberal Party as it's growing in the next number of weeks as something completely different than Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party. So they're not only introducing us to a new leader, a new prime minister, but to a new party they hope can get the trust of the public to vote for them.
John, thank you so much for your time. Your insight is so valuable. We appreciate it, and we'll come back with you in just a little bit. But in the meantime, I'm going to throw it over to CP24's Melissa Duggan, because she's out gauging what people are saying to a new and possibly short-lived new leaders at Parliament Hill. Of course, we know that there is set to be an election sometime very soon. So what are people saying about today and about the changing government?
Good morning to you, Arda. Well, what we have heard from Mark Carney is that his transition between Trudeau holding office and him now set to be holding office within just minutes from now is going to be quick, and it is going to be seamless. That's the preview that he's given us. And certainly the people I've talked to today outside of Union Station are hoping that's what they're going to see over the next little while as we enter a new phase, possibly a new election. And we here in Ontario certainly are well practiced in elections. Not only have we seen that federal Liberal leadership race just wrap up with the vote results announced on Sunday, but of course we just went through a provincial election here and set to possibly have a federal election within weeks, maybe at the end of April, possibly early May. As for what people are thinking about Carney, about this transition period, and about possibly this election just around the corner, have a listen.
It's exciting that he's an economist, especially the way things like our relationship with the States is right now. So that's a little bit concerning, but having somebody who's so economically inclined is a little bit comforting in a time like this.
You think Canada's ready for a federal election?
I think we are. I think we're past ready for federal election. I think we really are.
I have been here for the last 5 years, and Canada wasn't so great at the last 5 years. But before I came, I heard it's like amazing. So I wish Canada become great again.
This is going to be much bigger than just
So you heard me ask a question in there. Do you think Canada is ready for an election right now? I've been asking that question over and over again to people here at Union Station, and time again, they are saying, yes, we are ready to head to those polling stations and cast our ballot. And again, that could be happening very soon. Possibly we could find out by the end of the day, Arda. Certainly we're keeping a very close watch on Ottawa right now. That includes people here at Union Station. You know, it is the Friday of March break, but people certainly are plugged into what is happening in federal politics at this moment. Back to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this, Melissa. For more on this, we're joined by veteran pollster John Wright. John, thank you so much for staying here with us throughout this morning. So we haven't heard from Mark Carney too much. We haven't heard him speak. Is that really, when he does, how will that affect the polls? How do you think that will affect what people think of him?
It will be critical to listen to the new Prime Minister within the next hour. And the reason is because he's going to talk about his vision of what he wants to do with this country. He takes, reins of a government which is under siege from the United States. We have some inkling about what he wants to do about that, but it's not just about the United States. I don't think people fully comprehend at the moment that with all of the moving parts here, we're regenerating our own country. I mean, we have alliances that we've popped up in the defense community with Australia and with New Zealand the last week that we didn't have. We're now being entertained by the Europeans in terms of trading with them. We have cross-border situations where, even whether you're in British Columbia or in the Maritimes, getting alcohol onto the local liquor board may be a lot easier to do. Like we're watching the regeneration of a country based on what's coming from south of the border. So the question is, what is Mark Carney's vision for this country? It can't be the Trudeau vision, because clearly, and that's what we're seeing today, where some of those ministers are no longer there. But what is his emphasis? And we're going to get, I think, some talking points, and I don't mean to make light of it, but politicians tell you what they're going to tell you, and then tell you what you told them, right? Like that's basically what they're going to do. Mark Carney's going to tell us today what he wants to do with this country, and he's going to get a lot of questions about the election coming up, but nonetheless, but probably by the end of this month, we'll be away to the polls, and I'll be interested to look back and see what those talking points were and whether that's the theme for the campaign.
And there is a big contrast between who the Liberal leader is and who the Conservative leader is.
Very much so. We know Pierre Poilievre. We know him very well because he's being trained on Justin Trudeau for so long. We know that it's a different style and a different approach. But we also know that with Trudeau gone, the Conservatives have had to change their approach and find their footing. I'm not sure they've found it fully yet, but what we do know is that they've raised way more money than the Liberals, and they have a plan to try and paint Mr. Carney into the way in which they want to win the election. So I suspect we're going to see the Leader of the Opposition soon or within the next 24 hours with his comments on Mr. Carney, in which he says, same old, same old. I mean, you can have a new guy come in here, but the reality is when you look at what he espouses, it's just like Justin Trudeau did. Like, they'll try and paint him as being part of that regime. Again, it's precarious in this election. I remember the 1988 election when we had free trade as the focus, and it was a really up and down campaign. We had, some people will remember, we had the raging grannies who used to follow around Brian Mulroney and deal with that. This is different. This is Donald Trump. This is Howard Lutnick in the White House, who on any given moment or day can say something which can change the nature of our entire country, how we see it, and also an election campaign. So what the Conservatives may have in store for Mark Carney today, they may have to be very nimble and change it within the next period of time. So I just think this is a bit of a petri dish experiment. I don't think we've been in a situation like this, so I wouldn't make a prediction of who's going to win. All I know is that the gloves are going to come off very shortly, and it's going to be about defining who the opposition and the new government is about.
Thank you so much. So interesting. We'll come back in just a little bit. In the meantime, stay with CP24 for our continued coverage of the swearing in of Mark Carney.